Greetings and salutations everyone, and welcome to another video. Today I want to talk about TFNation, because it's only a couple of months until the event. Everyone's starting to talk about it, so why not? Haven't done a video in a while. It's a good topic to talk about. But more importantly, not the convention as a whole, a panel that's going to be at the convention. A panel that anyone watching this, anyone going to TFNation, should really get to if they can. That panel is about Brave. Now the word Brave has been tossed around a lot recently. Brave this, Brave that, Brave series. What does it all mean? Now before I go any further, anyone who's going to be at TFNation, please, whatever you're doing on the Friday, 11th of August, go and see the panel. One of the hosts is Matt, Timey, and they'll talk about the franchise in a lot more depth than I can in just this one video. But please, if you're going to TFN, please go and support the panel. I'm going to go and see it. It's going to be very, very cool. I'm hoping that it may entice some more people into watching the Brave franchise. However, if you're not going to TFN, or maybe if you want a little bit of background and maybe a couple of reasons why to watch it, then stick around for this video. So the first important question, what is Brave? Well, in the late 1980s, Transformers was still very much a thing in Japan, with series such as Transformers Victory, Master Force, and somewhat Zone carrying on the Generation 1 continuity. However, by the end of the decade, popularity in the franchise as a whole was kind of waning, which is why Transformers Zone, which was meant to be a 40-odd episode, only really got one episode. It became an OVA. However, there was still a huge popularity for mecha at the time, and specifically transforming robots. And so Takara, seeing that they still had a profitability to be made, teamed up with Sunrise. Now I'm sure all of you know that Sunrise has done a numerous amount of shows and animated series over many decades now, but one of their most famous is of course Gundam, which makes the partnership of Takara and Sunrise just that bit much more sweeter. But what you get is a mixture of the Gundam-esque designs with the Transformers way of storytelling. And that's Brave, in a nutshell, kind of. Each season of Brave, of which there were 8, spread over 9 years, all the way up to the end of the 90s, tell a very similar story. Transforming robots, whether they're built, whether they're alien, they come to Earth, they protect Earth from an evil. An intergalactic evil, or maybe an evil on the Earth already. And with the help of their human companions, most notably the main character being a young human boy, they protect the Earth as they can. Now, the very first in the Brave franchise, Brave X Kaiser, is the most like Transformers. It has a story which is most similar to your typical Transformers story. And from there, Brave kind of went off on its own thing, all the way up to its very last series, which is at the very end of the 90s, Gao, which is, it's out there. It's kind of, let's do anything we want and see if we can get away with it. And in some cases they did, some cases they didn't, but it's certainly different. It's a lot different to what the Brave franchise started off with. But that's the beauty of Brave. Because there are so many series in it, there's so much diversity. And I'll talk more about that in a bit. But if you are going to be at TFN, or if you're just very interested in this Brave franchise, then here are 3 reasons why you should watch it. And if you don't want to know much about the Brave going into TFN, then stop watching the video now, because I'm probably going to not spoil anything, but I am going to give details away of certain plots and stuff. So, you know, feel free to leave the video now. So Brave is very similar to Transformers. In fact, I would go so far as to say that it's the spiritual successor to Transformers, for many reasons. Chief among them is the story. The very first Brave series, which I've mentioned, X Kaiser, its plot is very similar. Now, stop me if you've heard this before, but... So, an alien life form comes to Earth tracking a bunch of criminals, and both sides take the form of ordinary human vehicles. Now, the main leader of the good robots, if you will, the police force, the intergalactic heroes who are after these villains, if you will call that, takes the form of a car and becomes very friendly with a certain young human boy. They're able to defeat the alien menace that is hiding on Earth and able to save the day. Now, if that doesn't scream Transformers Generation 1 to you, I don't know what will. It very much is, here's Transformers, let's take quite a lot of elements of this, but let's rejig it into a series of our own. For instance, for the aliens that do come to Earth, their true form is more akin to an energy life form than it is an actual robot. And the villains that come to Earth, known as the Dino-Geists, are not really a faction, but they're just criminals. And they just want to plunder Earth for all of its most valuable items, probably to go off and sell. But there are core elements from Transformers that are still here. You still have the very human boy and alien robot relationship. You still have the very global threat that Earth is under attack from these aliens. But it does try to differentiate the formula a bit. Now, as Brave goes on, the series start to get less and less like the original Transformers Generation 1 series. They diverge into very interesting places. But elements of Transformers are still there. If not necessarily in the plot, they're mainly because of the designs. What do I mean? Back to X-Kaiser, the Dino-Geist. They're giant alien robots that transform into dinosaurs. Sound kind of familiar? Well, it should, because they're the Dinobots. They are the animation model of the Dinobots from Generation 1 that have been updated and added bits to make them seem as very different, but they are essentially just the Generation 1 Dinobots with some new bits added onto them. And that's a theme that continues to run through Brave, all the way up to Dagwan, which is, let's reuse a Transformers design or an animation model, retweak it slightly, either by giving it a different colour or by adding on some bits here and there, and make it a new character. That's very much typical Brave. Sometimes it works, like the Dino-Geists. They are different enough to be considered different characters. Sometimes it doesn't really work, and you end up with a red Sky Gary or a black Diatlas, and it's very strange. But the crucial thing is that those links to Transformers are very much there. It very much is acknowledging its past, and also because Takara can reuse animation whenever they like, and it's probably cheaper that way as well. Now, the last thing about this first point is, not only did Transformers inspire Brave, Brave then went on to inspire Transformers as a kind of complete cycle. For instance, Transformers Animated. Most people, I can safely say, like Safeguard, like Jetfire and Jetstorm and the way they combine. Well, guess what? You have Gal Gadot to thank for that with symmetrical docking. Quite a lot of people enjoy Cybertron and enjoy how Optimus Prime can combine with Wingsaber and Leo Breaker. Again, very reminiscent of what happens in Gal Gadot. Energon, the way Energon Optimus Prime combines, for good or bad, is once again homaging several Brave robots. It's very much that after Brave, a lot of things took credit from it. Even outside of Transformers, other shows, Gundam for instance, Gundam Build Fighters, they use a very similar design for one of their mechs in that show. And it's all thanks to the Brave and how Brave changed up the way you look at super robots, especially in a time when super robots was kind of dying out and real robots were coming in and stuff like Eva was messing up the whole formula. So Brave kind of stood out as being the last of a dying breed of mecha that hasn't really come back to this day, to be honest. Brave, I very much believe, is a franchise for everyone. Well, what do I mean by that? Because there's 8 series, because it was over the course of a decade nearly, it means that there's so much variety in each show. Yes, they have certain tropes that will carry on throughout each of the series, but their plots, the way they tackle characters, their overall feel is very different in each show. For instance, if you want a very Transformers Generation 1 show, if you want something that invokes everything that's good about Transformers, but kind of giving it a new spin, that's X Kaiser. If you want a very Super Saiyan Power Rangers type mecha show, then that's Dagwan. If you want a very Batman-esque theme running through your mecha show with a billionaire who then goes out and fights crime but in a giant robot, that's Mike Gine. If you want a police drama, then that's Jay Decker. If you want something that's very akin to early mecha with robot spirits and believing in each other and a very plot-focused series, then that's Dagan. There are shows for everyone. Gal Gadot, for example. If you want a show that's fairly modern, has inspirations from Ava and what it did with mecha, but still keeps all of the funness and the over-the-topness of mecha shows from, say, the 60s and 70s, then that's Gal Gadot. Because it's absolutely nuts, but it still very much takes inspiration from what's about at the time. There is bound to be a show you like. All you've got to do is maybe have a look at each of the shows, see what appeals to you, and then have a watch. If you don't like it, there's 7 other shows that you can watch. There really is a huge variety in the Brave franchise. Now this is kind of a reason, but it may also be a hindrance to some people. The animation of Brave is good. It's not amazing. It's very much of the time. You've got to remember that the first Brave came out at the beginning of the 90s, so the animation isn't going to be what you see in some series now. However, the animation for sequences, however, is something else. Anytime you have a combination, a transformation, just a general sequence, most of the animation budget, you can tell, went into that. It is truly magnificent to watch. The downside is it's stock footage and it's used ridiculously. You'll probably see the same transformation, the same combination of a robot, mainly the main hero of the show, used probably once every episode. It's that kind of level of footage reuse, which, yeah, it's not good. I'm not going to lie, you know, that might put you off from watching Brave, and fair enough. But there are moments of sheer beauty in terms of animation in Brave, which, if you can get through most of the stock footage, you'll enjoy. Most of the unique stuff kind of happens within the second half of Brave series, including most of the fights as well, because if you like robots versus robots, then Brave is for you. The amount of mecha action that Brave does is phenomenal, to be honest. There are some very interesting fight scenes, very beautifully rendered fight scenes in the Brave franchise. But again, if you're not fond of early 90s animation, then what I recommend is starting with Gal Gadot, because Gal Gadot came out, it was the last show that they ever created. It came out late in the 90s. Its animation, just its general animation, is very good. It's good for the time. It's watchable for many people who watch animation now. You know, it's not going to be the same, but it's the closest you'll get. And the combination sequences, wow, they're brilliant. I mean, this is Brave at its best, to be honest. It got to a point where, because animation had changed so much from the early 90s, they could do much more with it, and there are some beautiful scenes in Gal Gadot, and you really have to watch it. So I talked a bit about the fight scenes, and yes, they're at the second half of the series, but it's worth the wait. I mean, the general formula of Brave is, it's a Monster of the Week show. The villains create a creature, or a creature comes to Earth. The heroes have to fend it off and destroy it, and they normally do by the end of the episode. But during the second half of Brave's series, they tend to suddenly go into the plot a lot more, and you get revelations, you get certain things happening, and it's much more interesting, and as so the fight scenes are much more intense. And one last thing to talk about in terms of animation with Brave is Gal Gadot Final. Gal Gadot Final is, for me, one of the best OVAs ever. Its animation quality is sublime. It really is. It was made 2000s, mid-2000s, and it's beautiful. If you like the animation of the original Gal Gadot series, you will love what they do with Final. Problem is, you got to watch all of Gal Gadot before you can watch Final. It's an added incentive to watch that series because, you know, you really should. Now, I guess this kind of counts as an extra reason, but luckily Brave is easy to get hold of. Most of the series, if not all of them, with the exception of a few, have been completely subbed. Which is brilliant because the time I started watching Brave, X-Kaiser only had 4 episodes dubbed. Now most, if not all of the series of it is dubbed. I think Mike Gann is mostly dubbed. Dagwan is nearly fully dubbed. I think the other series have full, if not complete dubs. Which means that you can watch all of the series, or maybe most of it, but still get a sense of what it is. Now, obviously subs aren't for everyone, and you know, none of these series was brought over to America, which is why none of them ever got a dub. Except Gal Gadot. For some odd reason, Gal Gadot being the last series meant that it kind of got most of the press. When anyone says about Brave, Gal Gadot is the first thing that comes to mind. Because of that, and because of its popularity, it was brought over to America, which means it gets a dub. And that dub is... well, it's something, let's say that. I mean, I enjoy it, but I'm in the minority. Because DVD sales of Gal Gadot didn't go as well as Sunrise had actually predicted, only half of the series is dubbed. Yeah, 25 out of 49 episodes of Gal Gadot is dubbed. Which is weird when you think about it, because normally you either dub a series or you don't. But in this case, it's only half, and it's mental. However, I kind of see that as a good reason, because it allows people to get into the show. If you don't like subs, you can watch the start of the show, you can get into it, you can know the characters, know its plot, know where it's going, know its themes, know certain things, and then when it comes to the halfway point, you'll be ready to go into the much more insane second half of Gal Gadot, which is subbed, which pretty much, I really don't see how they could have dubbed the second half because it's mental. If you think the first half of Gal Gadot is, oh, this is pretty crazy, the second half just goes off the wall, where they're like, well, let's throw in everything. Let's go to here and here and let's do this and that. Why not? So yeah, most of Brave is available easily, and I highly recommend you go and check it out. Even if you watch just the first episode of maybe each of the series to see which one you like. Go and do it, because they're only about 25 minutes long, typical Transformers episode length, and you know, you might enjoy it. And especially if you're going to go and see the panel at TFN, you'll have a little bit of knowledge going into it, and it'll really help in terms of understanding Brave. Obviously, you don't have to, and you'll probably get more out of the panel that way, but either way, either watch Brave before the panel, if you're going to it, or go to the panel if you're at TFN, because it's going to be brilliant, and you really have to support these guys. They're coming out, they're talking about something that's passionate to them, and you have to commend that, and it's brilliant. It's brilliant to see, and I can imagine there's going to be some interesting stuff in store in that panel, so please, whatever you do, if you're at TFN this year, go and see it. So until next time, when I may talk about TFN or something else, who knows? I don't even know anymore. These videos come out whenever they want to. So until then, thank you for watching, everyone. See you soon.